So in the last lecture, we learned about the twin deficits. That means the budget deficit and the trade deficit always go hand in hand. So you cannot reduce the one without reducing the other. So in this lecture, we'll be focusing on why US current account deficit worries economists. When we talk about current deficit, we are primarily talking about the trade deficits because current account primarily talk about the trade in goods and services. First, let's look into how much is the US current account deficit. And you can see from this graph that till the 1980s, current account deficit was close to zero, or we were always at balance. But things started going in the other direction since then. And at one point, we ran a current account deficit of close to $900 billion a year, which essentially means that we bought $900 billion worth of more goods than we sold to rest of the world. Though in recent years, the things have improved a little bit till we are running on an average 5 to $600 billion of current account deficits each year. Now, this can be a big concern for many economists. And we also know from policy perspective how the different presidents, including President Trump, have come after or have asked for to reduce this current account deficits or trade deficits. Now, before we go into details, let's look into how much is the US budget deficit. So this is the data on US budget deficit. This is, again, budget deficit is your difference between taxes and government expenditures. So in this case, we are running, especially again since the 80s and especially in recent years, huge budget deficits. And at one point in 2009, 2010, we reached up to $1.4 trillion. So that means our government is spending way more money than they're collecting in revenues. And what's the impact of all this? Obviously, it shows up in our national debt. So national debt is nothing but the summation of all the deficits that US government has been running from previous years. So right now our national debt is about $23 trillion. So that's the money we owe to someone in this world, including people in the United States. And we all know that under twin deficit hypothesis, current account deficit and budget deficit goes together. So when we talk about reducing current account deficit, first we need to take care of our budget deficit. If we can't take care of our budget deficit, our current account deficit will not be able to be reduced. Now, having said that, why many economists do worry about current account deficit? And there are several reasons. First, it indicates that at current exchange rates, foreign demand for US exports is far less than US demand for foreign goods. So that's a problem because that means we are demanding a lot of goods from the rest of the world, but foreigners are not willing to buy our good. One reason might be because our exchange rate might be overvalued. That means it's very cheap for us to buy foreign goods, but it's very difficult or very expensive for foreigners to buy US goods, which essentially calls for that exchange rate should be devalued, or US currency needs to be devalued so that for foreigners it's cheaper to buy our goods so that they start buying more of US commodities. Second reason is that a current account deficit means foreigners' claim on US assets are growing. Mind you, what we learned is that if we run a huge trade deficit, that means there's a lot of dollars floating outside of the United States. Those money often the foreigners use to buy up US assets. Now, which can be a growing concern because often those assets can be in our strategic industries. Again, question is, do you really want to open up our strategic industries up for sale to some foreign countries? So this is a very political question, and it has a lot of consequences. So having said that, we are not going to delve detail into all those issues in this particular lecture, but all you have to understand is this. there's a big concern that our strategic industries might be bought up by the foreign companies or foreign governments, because we are running a huge trade deficit with them. That means they have huge haul of dollars sitting with them, which they can use for any purpose they like to use it for.